welcome back. If you haven't already seen the first few videos of our journey on the John Muir Trail, go ahead and check those out. Today I will be talking about days 10 through 13 on the John Muir Trail, which are our final days on the trail. So we completed the full 222 miles in a total of 13 days. Day 10, we woke up at LeConte Canyon after an eventful night seeing a bear on the trail, not too far away from where we were sleeping. Surprisingly, we had a really restful night, regardless of our nerves about the bear, but we woke up both feeling pretty sore. My ankle was still bothering me, but it was manageable, and my brother's calf started bothering him, so we decided we'd take it easy this day, moving at a nice, gentle pace. And we started our day climbing up the Golden Staircase, which is a never-ending staircase that takes you up to Mather Pass. I had heard before the trail how challenging the Golden Staircase and Mather Pass was, and they were not kidding. It is a very steep and a very long climb to the top. And just as soon as you get over one hump, you see a next and the next. And every time you think you're just getting to the top, there's another one. Coming to the top of the staircase, there was one patch of snow that looked pretty sketchy and we were nervous to cross. But as we got closer to it, we saw a family not too far ahead of us making their way through the snow without ice axe, without micro spikes, and they had like an 8-year-old daughter with them. Watching her make it across without a problem reassured us that it was probably safer than we thought it was. We finally made it to the top of Mather Pass, and we had a gorgeous view over both sides of the pass, looking back at Palisade Lake and looking over into Lower Basin, which is where we'd be heading down on the other side of the pass. So from the top of Mather Pass, we started making our way down over the other side into Upper Basin. And between Mather Pass and Pinchot Pass, there's only about 10 miles. So we decided we'd probably make it to the lowest point between the two passes and camp there and make it up and over Pinchot Pass the following day. We've kind of fallen into this routine where we would start our days with a climb and end our days on the decline, just so that it was easier for our bodies when we were fresh in the morning with fresh legs to climb, and when we were tired, just cruising downhill. The last miles of our day, we'd turn up the music and boogie our way to our campsite. Normally, we'd find campsites as close to water as possible. We'd like to have that access for cooking and refilling our water bottles when we need to. So camping near a water source is definitely something I recommend. So at the end of day 10, we ended up camping at the South Fork of Kings River, which was the midpoint between Mather Pass and Pinchot Pass, for a total of 20 miles. Day 11, we woke up at South Fork Kings River, and it was a very cold morning. On this chilly morning, we decided to eat our breakfast in our sleeping bags. Really slow start to the day because we were both still feeling very sore and tired and exhausted from all the miles we had been hiking. We started our day with our climb up Pinchot Pass. We only had about 5 miles to the top. So we made it up to the top pretty quickly. We stopped for a lunch break before making our way over and down the other side. It was about a 4,000-foot descent from the top of Pinchot Pass, and there were beautiful streams and rivers and lakes along the way. As we were coming to the low point between Pinchot and Glen Pass, we came across another icon of the JMT, which is the suspension bridge. It's a shaky, wavy, kind of trippy bridge that you have to cross. After crossing the bridge, we kind of went down and underneath the bridge so we can soak our feet in the water, have a little snack, and recharge so we can start our climb up towards Glen Pass. So we had to end our day with a 2,500-foot climb, which is not what we usually like to do at the end of the day since we're so exhausted, but we positioned ourselves pretty well for Glen Pass the next day. We stopped around Ray Lakes, which is a beautiful, beautiful campsite I highly recommend for anyone hiking the JMT. We found an isolated spot on a peninsula overlooking the lake, and we hung out, had our dinner, and watched the sunset with the marmots and the mosquitoes. Altogether, day 11 was a total of about 22 miles. We started off at South Fork Kings River and ended at Ray Lakes. Mark suffered the night in his quilt, struggling to stay warm, and in the morning he asked me if we could start sharing a tent so maybe we'd be warmer at night. I guess his sleeping situation wasn't as warm as he was expecting it to be. My sleeping bag worked perfectly fine for me, but Mark was using a quilt and I guess it didn't keep in the heat as much as he expected it to. So our plan for day 12 was to get up and over Glen Pass, which we were planning to do pretty quickly since we only had 3 miles to the top, and position ourselves up Forester Pass to go over the next day. It was a pretty steep pass and there were many patches of snow that we had to cross. We moved very slowly going across the snow patches since we didn't have equipment for the snow. We just had our hiking poles and our regular hiking sneakers. We quickly made our way to the top of Glen Pass, took a little break, as we usually do with the gorgeous view, before making our way down the other side. We made our way down from Glen Pass and to the spot we were going to camp that night, and it wasn't even noon. So we relaxed a little bit, we basked in the sun, put our feet in the river, had our lunch, took a nap, relaxed, and realized there was still so much left in the day and we weren't in a spot that we really wanted to camp anyway. So we put our packs back on and decided to see how far we'd get if we kept hiking the rest of the day. We were realizing that we were coming so close to the end and our adrenaline for reaching Whitney was reaching a maximum that we just couldn't be stopped. So we decided we were also going to cover Forester this day. Forester was another pass with lots of snow patches and rock scrambling. Forester was no joke. It was probably one of the toughest passes to get up and over, but with a very rewarding view when you get to the top. These passes never fail to disappoint. It's always something spectacular and breathtaking, amazing. Pictures could never do it justice. We hung out at the top of Forester Pass with another group of hikers before making our way down into the Bighorn Plateau. Ended up being a total of about 27 miles. Now that was the biggest day on trail for us. So we started off at Ray Lakes, which is the 172 mile mark on the JMT, finished off at Wallace Creek, which is mile marker 199. So that's a total of about 27 miles for day 12. Our last day on trail. Day 13, we woke up at Wallace Creek and we were so excited to be climbing up Mount Whitney this day. The highest peak in the lower 48, and we were climbing it. We packed up our stuff, full of energy, ready to go, ready to conquer that beast, and started climbing our way up Whitney. We had originally planned to do what most people do and stay at Guitar Lake the night before summiting Whitney. Most people like to stay there because they wake up early enough that they can summit Mount Whitney with the sunrise, which I've heard is an incredible experience. However, we didn't make it that far the day before, and we were a little too close to Guitar Lake to stop there. So we ended up just taking our lunch break at Guitar Lake before finishing our climb to the top of Whitney. Now, about a mile short of the top, I think it's about a mile, there is a split where you can make your way down to the Whitney portal or your way to the top of Mount Whitney. Once you get to this point, you can drop your pack and summit Mount Whitney before coming back and grabbing your pack on the way down. So we dropped our packs and started making our way to the top. As we're climbing the last bit to the top of Mount Whitney, all the memories from the trip are flashing through your mind. And I was just feeling so incredibly proud of myself for doing it. I was seriously doubting myself before we set off on this trip if I was able to even do something like that. I had never backpacked for more than 2 nights at a time, and I've never hiked more than 100 miles in my life, and I had never climbed to an elevation that high either. So there were a lot of doubts in my mind before setting off. The reality of having actually done it was overwhelming. So as I was climbing to the top and I saw that structure, I couldn't help myself and just started bawling. It was an overwhelming experience to realize what I had accomplished, and I'm super proud of having done it. summit of Mount Whitney, we had another 9 or 10 miles to hike to get to Whitney Portal, which is the parking lot where you can get a ride to the closest town. As we were coming out the very last few steps of the trail, there was a family walking right in front of us who struck up a conversation. And lucky for us, we mentioned that we had just finished hiking the JMT, which they were very impressed about, and we told them that we were trying to find a way to get to the closest town. Luckily, they were staying in the closest town and offered us a ride. These nice people also offered us some beer for the ride, so can't complain with that. We got a ride, first person we talked to, and a free beer. Whoa. So our final day on trail, day 13, we started off at Wallace Creek. We summited Mount Whitney, which is the end of the trail, 211 miles, and then made our way down an additional 10 or so miles to Whitney Portal, which is 222 miles from Happy Isles in Yosemite, where we started the trail. So in total, day 13 was about 22 miles. Our original plan was to complete the JMT in 22 days, factoring in 3 rest days or 0 days at about 10 miles a day. We ended up pushing between 15 and 20 miles a day in reality, which caused us to finish the trail in just about 2 weeks. We made our way to the closest town. We found a motel to stay in for the night. We did our laundry at a local laundromat and filled ourselves up with Mexican burritos and just chilled until figuring out our next steps. But at this point, we were just living in bliss for what we had accomplished. No cares in the world, just pride, joy, happiness. And that was our experience hiking the John Muir Trail. So if you're thinking of hiking the JMT, I highly recommend you do it. I would just suggest that you do plenty of research into the food you're gonna bring, the gear you're gonna bring, what you're gonna wear, what you're gonna eat, and kind of just what the trail is like in general. I also recommend that you have somewhat of a training regimen before you get started. I trained for several months before setting off on the JMT, and the way I trained was a lot of cardio. I would go on the treadmill and put it at full incline and do some walking uphill. I would go on long hikes on the weekends carrying my backpack with its full weight so I could get used to the feeling, and lower body exercises. So anything to strengthen my legs for all of the climbing and descending that we would be doing. It's totally worth all the effort and preparation. 10 out of 10 recommend, 20 out of 10 recommend. It is by far one of the best experiences I've had in my life. So that was the experience me and my brother had hiking the John Muir Trail in August of 2019. If you have any questions or comments for me or want to know anything else about the experience we had hiking the John Muir Trail, please leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to get back to you.